Hello everyone, this is update for February 27, 2024, day 734 of the war and of the date update. Also catch up for February 26 and 25. I'm gonna talk a little bit about the general strategic updates, and then I'm gonna switch to the situation. On the front line, which as everybody knows is not going well for Ukraine. But before that, let's just discuss first funding for Ukraine from the US. So the situation there remains blocked, as I mentioned before. It's unlikely to get resolved because Republican majority in the lower chamber of the US Parliament is very clear. They want to stop immigration through Mexico into the US, or probably not just through Mexico, you can say through Canada, any kind of immigration, because what it does is really diluting voting base for the Republican Party, and it's obviously increasing voting base for Democratic Party. So this is effectively some kind of like a political war, I guess, if that's the right way to say it, between the two parties, and the ultimatum that Republican side has given to Democrat side is that you need to stop that, and there should be clear strategy on how how this war is gonna sort of progress, or what's the strategy for Ukraine. And for both of those questions, Democratic Party simply cannot give any positive answer. It's simply, Democratic Party cannot, cut the oxygen from themselves by stopping this immigration. So that's very unlikely to get resolved. And then in terms of strategy, that obviously should be coming from Ukrainian political leadership and military leadership, and they have no strategy. There is just, let's keep fighting for the sake of fighting, but there is no idea how to actually strategically overcome Russia, because it really requires significant changes in Ukraine at all levels, politically, economically, more freedoms, less regulation, and none of that is coming with the current political top, specifically with Ukrainian president. So unlike this situation is unlikely to resolve in positive direction for Ukraine anytime soon, and the sooner the elections are, that the chances are even lower, because the Republican Party needs to come strong to the elections. They need to push these issues to their voting base and so on. So there will be even lower chance of compromise. What's going to happen is most likely is that the Republican majority probably will approve extension of the U.S. budget. Basically, U.S. leaves without any budget at this point. It's just the country is on autopilot. So what this really means is that you take 2023 budget and saying, okay, we're going to run at the same level every month because we don't really have any budget. And so this is what's probably going to happen. It's very unlikely that Republican majority will do government shutdown, federal government shutdown in the U.S. Simply because it's not going to look good for them, that they are sort of not able to compromise, that they are not productive, and so on. So for that reason, they probably will extend the same status quo for this I think it's 6 months, or plus minus, I don't know, maybe 5 months. And so the U.S. will continue living without budget, probably till election, as I said before. So that's sort of so the takeaway. It's obviously net negative for Ukraine. Ukraine is not going to get that funding. Having said that, as is mentioned many times before, weapons and specifically artillery shells, everything is available on the market. There's always market, there's always solution. It's not in the US, it's not in the EU, but there is big world outside of those blocks. The problem is that Ukrainian president, Ukrainian political top is not willing to spend money. So, for example, I mentioned this, that Czech, I think it was Czech president who found 800,000 artillery shells. They are obviously not in the EU, they are not in the US, but they are there on the market. And Ukrainian government hasn't even spent any money, didn't sort of come forward saying, okay, we were ready to spend money and buy them. So right now, all various European countries are basically coming together to try to buy that stock of artillery shells, which again, this should be responsibility of Ukrainian government to jump on this opportunity and to snap that ammunition. So this really reflects the poor quality of the government, which is completely inept, bureaucratic and simply not capable of doing anything, I would say, except for corruption. That's a whole problem where the sort of rot is happening in Ukraine. There is another issue sort of also related to corruption. There are a lot of protests in Poland against Ukrainian agricultural supply, and they are sort of mostly fair. The reason is because there are few, call it oligarchs, or who are close to Ukrainian president. I think one of them is Kernel. I showed this last time. They are like wholesale traders. They accumulate, let's say, grain, various kinds of grains, and then they just dump it in Poland, where they should be just using Poland as transit country for exporting elsewhere. But that's not happening. It's being dumped in Poland. It's obviously upsets Polish farmers because their livelihood is being destroyed, and so. But at the same time, there's just benefit of handful of people in Ukraine, and obviously that's not beneficial for Ukraine, and it's alienating Poland and popular support of Ukraine in Poland. That's actually huge damage that's being done for the benefit, as I stated, of few oligarchs who don't even see themselves as part of Ukrainian society. This is just, Ukraine is just a place where they can, it's not even earn, basically, reap, that they can exploit, basically, to get money. There is, now I'm going to switch a little bit to Russia. Russian government is banning export of gasoline starting March 1 for 6 months. So basically it's till fall. The reason for that is there are probably several reasons. There is shortages, as I mentioned before, due to economic mismanagement in the Russian economy by the Russian government, and that's probably also exacerbated by the attacks of Ukrainian UAVs on various oil refining assets in Russia. So probably also further reduced capacity in Russia. So, and obviously spring and summer peak season when you need gasoline the most, and also obviously diesel fuel. So to prevent shortages of fuel in Russia and to kind of keep the social stability in Russia, Russian political top decided to ban export of gasoline. This is net positive for Ukraine because it reduces flow of money or foreign currency into Russia. So there's fewer opportunities to spend that money on war effort. But obviously, it's not gonna, it's not gonna undermine war effort by any means. It's just small negative, but everything will continue the way it goes. That additional sort of sign that there is a strain from war, that war is expensive on Russian state budget. Actually, Russian members of Russian parliament came with new draft law that's increasing essentially taxes, individual taxes. So Russia used to was pretty low. There was a flat personal tax. I think it was started at like 14%, no matter how much you earn, which is, as you can imagine, is pretty low relative, especially to the West, and it's fairly attractive. I think gradually it was increased to 15 or 18%. So now this new law proposes to go away from this flat rate and create a gradual rate, with the highest rate I think is 25%. So that should help to collect 1 trillion Russian rubles, which is obviously helpful for the war effort. Again, this is typical normal. Well, it's not normal, but it's normal for the war situation, where government is trying to squeeze economies, trying to squeeze citizens for all sorts of resources, and they grab whatever they can, and that's really what's happening in Russia. Now I'm going to switch to the situation on the battlefield, and I'm going to walk through in a clockwise fashion, as I always do, starting from very north. The situation along the state border with Russia remains more or less the same, stable. No impending signs of any kind of Russian invasion coming, and I don't think it's happening anytime soon at this moment, because the reason is because Russia is achieving its goals on the existing front line, so they don't need to expand it, because that actually creates more risks than benefits. At least not at this moment. Maybe later, when Ukrainian army will become much more weaker, then the benefits will clearly outweigh the risk, and then things may happen, but not at this moment. But the general trend situation is going in that direction. It just the speed is still sort of unclear. Now let's move to the North Luhansk front line. Things here sort of back to normal. Russian troops resumed their attacks towards Kupiansk from this southeastern direction. They also attack from northeastern direction, so basically from two directions, but the end goal Kupiansk. So far they did not manage to make any advances. Then Russian troops also attacking here in the southern sector of this front line against the village Terne. They making some small tiny advances bit by bit, but so far they are not close to the village itself. They still sort of moving towards it through the fields. Now let's move to the North Donbass front line. The northern part of the front line is quiet, as it typically is. Let's jump to the southern one. So things here getting worse for Ukrainian side. Russian troops are slowly but surely moving forward. So they initiated fight for this village Ivanivske. So basically what this really means is that Ukrainian forces are in process of losing this Ivanivske. Russian troops also advancing here north of Ivanivske. So essentially, in not distant future, Russian troops probably will get to this channel that I'm showing here, and so Ukrainian side is probably going to lose this, I would say, we can call it bridgehead. There are also Russian attacks in Klishivka, Andriivka, but the most effort is obviously straight west, and immediate direction is this town Chasiv Yar here, which Russian troops are actively attacking with artillery and gliding bombs. And most dangerous right now at this point is gliding bombs. because it's obviously the effect is much more devastating. Now let's move to the central Donbass front line. Things here are also developing in a negative direction, continuing. And the most actually concerning situation is west of Avdiyivka. Ukrainian troops are so far having hard times stopping Russian troops, so they slowly but surely losing ground. And I would say in fairly quick fashion. So this line that I was showing before, it's obviously lost, and now even the third line that's around basically like Berdychi, Orlivka, I think Tonenke, it's all essentially breached, and it's in the process of being lost as well. So what this really means that Russian troops can truly, turn this tactical successes into operational successes potentially, and things really in I would say pretty danger zone for Ukraine. This is especially concerning given that the front line is being held here by the 3rd Brigade, which is Azov, and also 47th, which is also better one in Ukrainian army. So this is probably two of the better ones, two of the better, more motivated brigades in Ukrainian army, and they effectively cannot hold on. And as I mentioned before, 3rd Brigade is really a division because it's about 8,000 troops. So it's pretty sizable, and that's the most concerning, and that's what I mentioned before, that this new Russian commander Mordvichov figure out sort of new modus operandi for Russian troops, how to actually organize them, how to turn fairly low quality troops, which is this mechanized brigades, which mediocre, and actually use them so that they're actually able to achieve goals. And this is this is what's been happening here, and this is the most concerning area. This is most dangerous developments for Ukraine here. There's also Russian attacks continuing out of the Marinka salient, controlled by Russia at this point. Russian troops are advancing in Krasnohorivka. They basically initiated fight for Krasnohorivka, so this small town is probably going to be lost by Ukrainian troops in hard to predict timing. The Russian attacks against Novomikhailivka a little bit sort of got stalled at the moment, so remains to be seen. But at the same time, the two main areas, basically this Marinka salient and more importantly this Avdiyivka area, are in absolute danger for Ukrainian side. Now let's move to Zaporizhya front line. Things here actually changed quite a bit, and in I would say more dangerous situation for Ukrainian army. So looks like Russian command is either probing or Ukrainian defenses in new areas. So they were attacked towards Gulyai-Pole, which is a regional town, and then this village Malinivka. So it seems like Russian troops are attempting to find weaker points in Ukrainian defenses, and they actively searching for that. At the same time, the Russian troops continuing their attacks in Rabodina. So far, no major advances, no major breaches, so the front line here. But again, this could be dangerous development in the future. But so far, the front line holds there. Now let's finish with the situation along Dnipro River. So things remain the same here. Ukrainian forces continuing to hold this bridgehead in Krinky. Russian troops doing their sort of extremely weak attempts, probably more like kind of like for the show, just for the higher command that they're doing something. But the efforts are clearly not strong. The only efforts that are strong is this attacks with gliding bombs. That's the only sort of, which is safe, as you can imagine. So you can sort of put a check mark for the higher command. Okay, we're doing something. We're trying to dislodge this bridgehead, but there is, I would say, no truly real effort there. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. Till next time. Bye bye.